an adaptation of Keisuke Itagaki's Baki the Grappler manga and a continuation of 2001 series. Netflix's Baki debuted its second season on June 4, 2020. While the first season of Baki covered the most evil death row convict arc, a brutal saga that saw 5 high-profile criminals head to Japan in hope of testing defeat. The second season revolves around the Chinese martial art tournament that attracts world's strongest fighters. Baki is a brutal martial arts anime that does not pull any punches when it comes to its unique fight scenes. Although there are very few series quite like it, other animes do exist that should be able to scratch the itch left by Netflix's series. The franchise has been around for quite some time now and has gathered up a huge fan base. So, if you want to catch up on other animes that are similar in tone and style, then you have come to the right place. Here's the list of best animes similar to Baki. And don't forget to mention your favorite pick in the comment section down below. So, without any further ado, let's start with our list. On the 10th number, the anime name is Record of Ragnarok. It's an anime made to show incredible fights. Its story is different, although it doesn't present any kind of complexity. It's direct and it does what it promises. The art and the animation are decent, although they slack from time to time. It also has moments where they get amazing too. The story is a very simple one. Simply put, essentially we follow one big tournament arc in which 13 gods faces off against 13 humans in separate one-on-one battles. However, while being an extremely simple premise, it is portrayed in a superbly interesting manner using intriguing undertones that embellishes what it is we have. There is fantastic lore behind the story, one of which elucidates the high stakes from gods of mythology that we ourselves may be interested in to human beings within our timeline that we may have taken note of. I believe this manga takes the idea of simple action tournament arc and stretches it to its greatest length. The only flaw I can give here is the simplicity. However, this simplicity is also one of the work's greatest strengths. On the 9th number, the anime name is Drifters. This anime had me excited from the very beginning. The first episode had me craving for more. I was desperate to know where it was going. The characters are astonishingly unique in personality, and the whole idea of the series feels refreshing to the animes that have been released before. Drifters is immediately identified as a fantasy show of the isekai subgenre, as the main characters are sent into a stock fantasy world, replete with demi-humans like elves. But this similarities ends there. There are a few stark differences between the nature of passengers in Drifters and the ones in the regular isekai show. One of the easiest differences to spot is that the Drifters are historical characters unlike the more modern protagonists in regular isekai anime. Another key difference are the age and the statuses of the Drifters, where most isekai shows involve young adults, usually high schoolers, lacking in essential survival experience. The Drifters are full-fledged adults and warriors who have survived many battles. This attribute of the Drifters leads to the most profound differences between series and a regular isekai. The main characters do not seek to escape this different world, they seek to conquer it. I really enjoyed the show and I would recommend it to anyone that has some interest in isekai, war or action overall. Forget to mention it is really gory just like Baki, which is a good thing for me, but some people may not like gore, so it's up to you. On the 8th number, the anime name is Basil's Koga Nimpocho. Basil's anime is extremely fast-paced. Expect to see a lot of action in every episode and at least one person dying in each episode. This is widely in contrast with slow-paced but highly revved animes like Naruto. Furthermore, the fight scenes are very well-paced and thought out. It is anyone's guess who gets to fight who next, keeping one in much suspense throughout the show. The story follows two rival ninja clans, the Koga clan and the Iga clan, which have been fighting for over 200 years, and only 50 years ago an anti-war pact was enacted between them to prevent any further bloodsheds. No one remembers or cares to remember how the fights were even started, but in the minds of both Koga and Iga clan, the reason doesn't matter. But now Genosuke, young leader of the Koga ninjas, falls in love with the beautiful leader of Iga clan, Oboro. Together, they hope that they can end the long-lasting fight between their two clans. However, the pact that prevented them from killing each other just nullified. Will their love endure amidst the hatred and bloodshed that has plagued their clans for centuries? Basilisk is a show that will challenge your fortitude. The violence is visceral and story maintains a bleak tone throughout. Basilisk succeeds at showing hatred at its essence. Characters commit ghastly acts towards one another, throwing away any ounce of humanity they once had. The story starts off relatively light in tone, but gradually delves into deeper, murkiest parts of human depravity. On the 7th number, the anime name is Hajimenoippo. Hajimenoippo or Fighting Spirit is a fantastic shonen sports comedy action anime produced by one of the greatest studio ever, Madhouse. Even though it doesn't tell the entire story, the story it does tell is truly amazing with all of the manliness. It's about your classic teenage underdog Ippo Makuoichi, who's pretty shy and gets bullied and looked down upon by some of his peers. Then one fateful day, he comes across a boxing gym with a great pro boxer and soon attains the desire to become a boxer. Sure, this setup sounds very typical for a shonen sports drama, but I personally enjoyed the story about the underdog overcoming continuous obstacles. This formula does get pretty repetitive after a while, but the flow during and between the matches helps set the steady pace of developing story. Overall, Hajimenoippo is a highly entertaining anime series that is able to capture the pure essence of boxing with some truly memorable bouts. Even though the whole overcome any obstacles with hard work thing is getting a bit played out in the shonen genre, it is still proven to be an effective plot device in this series. On the 6th number, the anime name is Megalo Box. The idea of mechanical aided boxing hasn't necessarily not been produced before, but the structure Megalo Box pursues provides refreshing content that goes against the grain. The initial point of the series shows how an underdog sensation tries to climb the competitive ladder with a fairly large handicap, not having a mechanical equipment. The plot is intriguing because it means instead of raw strength or raw capabilities, our MC Joe resorts to endurance to defeat his enemies. He's probably knocked down 4-5 times per game before he's ready to secure a win. Kind of unrealistic knockdowns, but the way they are executed makes it very satisfying. Eyes going fuzzy, vision blurs, essentially replicating the mood of being knocked down and close to losing consciousness. I can only recommend this anime to everyone. Even though this is a boxing anime, don't expect something like Hajimenoippo. In Hajimenoippo, the fights have long build-up and the fights are slow and each punch is shown to have real heavy hits. In Megalo Box, it's not about the individual fights. Albeit being gorgeous and incredibly choreographed, it's about the path to the top. And everything in this anime aids to this single purpose. If you want incredibly deep boxing matchups with unique techniques that have to be figured out, this might not be for you. But if you want fighter spirit anime about the struggling stray dog, this is a perfect choice. On the 5th number, the anime name is Air Gear. The series follows Itsuki or Ikki Minami, the leader of a small junior high gang made up of his two best friends, Kazu and Onigiri. Ikki gets into loads of fights and is pretty much delinquent. But when he gets thoroughly beaten down by a group of team of Storm Riders, he wants to take revenge and he wants to do it in their way. Ikki gets a hold of a pair of air treks from a Noyamano sisters, a group of 4 sexy girls who have looked after Ikki since he was a small child. He learns to ride air treks and it becomes clearly from the early on that Ikki has talent, a prodigy some might say. After various air trek adventures, he forms his own team. A key aspect of Air Gear is that it makes it stand out among the other shonen animes is its seemingly underground aesthetics. The air treks are essentially roller skates with some very novel upgrades, to the effect that depending upon one's training and skills, skating up to buildings and jumping across rooftops becomes easily possible. Gear is an interesting piece and the premise is about motorized rollerblades that allows you to skate fast and even fly in the air. The premise sounds like a fabulous setup for a futuristic shonen sports anime. However, this description doesn't accurately describe what Air Gear is all about. The focus on character developments is truly what makes the world of air treks enjoyable. Every character has his or her aspirations and goals in life, and the way in which they can achieve it is by using air gears to do so. Overall, this anime is a must-see for shonen lovers and those who seek originality. On the fourth number, the anime name is Fog Hill of the Five Elements. In ancient times, a mysterious Tao is granted the special abilities of Yin, Yang and the five elements to the five families of metal, wood, water, fire and earth to resist the monsters. They drove the monsters to the Mist Mountain and set up a barrier. In the Mist Mountain, there are also holy beasts with powerful spiritual powers that are sealed in the giant shields of Aegis, often attracting those monsters who wants to increase their demon powers and to break through the barriers. The fire envoy Wenrei Ying Xuan privately opened the giant shield's Aegis in order to save his mother. One of those little holy beasts took the opportunity to sneak out, and the monster world will set off a bloody storm. Fog Hill of Five Elements is an original Chinese ONA by Samsara Studio, co-produced by Nice Boat Animation. This series experienced a number of production delays and was eventually released in 2020 as a 3-episode ONA. It has received much critical acclaim for its art style, animation and storytelling. On my anime list, it is only one of the small numbers of anime series to have achieved a fan rating in excess of 8 out of 10. A second season was officially announced in February of 2021 and a trailer released. This series might give some people Avatar The Last Airbender vibes, but only with god tier animation to rival some of the best animated series out there like Demon Slayer. The fights are insanely well choreographed and extremely well done. The movements are amazing and hilarious. The characters and the backgrounds are insanely pleasant to look at. This show from the first episode already does not hold back at all. If you like godlike animation and spectacular awesome fights, I definitely recommend you watching this anime. On the third number, the anime name is Ashitano Joe. Ashitano Joe, or known as in other parts of the world as Rocky Joe, Tomorrow Joe or Joe's Tomorrow, is a story about an orphan who ran away from the orphanage at the very young age, who goes by the name of Joe Yabuki. After a couple of years, when Yabuki Joe is a teenager, he meets an old man named Tange Dampei, who used to be a boxer and gets into fight with Joe and loses. After that, some members of the Yakuza shows up to fight Joe, but in the end, Joe again wins. Dampei sees this and asks him if he would like to become a boxer, and Joe's response to this is no. Dampei still keeps trying until Joe finally accepts the offer, but the only reason why he is accepting it is because of the money. Then the story enters a young woman named Yoko Shiraki who gets scammed by Joe, and she finds out about this and Joe gets sent to jail for 1 year and 6 months. During his jail time, he meets Nishi, who becomes a good friend later on, and a man that gets into fight with Joe, who defeats Joe for the first time. This person is known as Toru Rishiki. After this, a rivalry starts between the two of them, which causes Joe to become a boxer in order to settle the score with Rishiki. Anyone who sees this show will immediately recognize that this was the original style and this was the show that gave rise to Dragon Ball, Saint Seiya, Bleach, Naruto, but mostly Hajimenoippo and Rurouni Kenshin. But there is a warning. The protagonist Joe has a charisma that leaves all the other in mud. This show is old but gold. Joe is the most lovable asshole out there and you cannot deny it. Talk about nuanced interactions soon. If you endure some poor visuals and voice editing, the reward is big enough. Don't waste your time watching trash and go for this anime today because it is a masterpiece for sure. On the second number, the anime name is God of High School. Throughout its first several episodes, the God of High School set up a simple, compelling premise. A tournament known as God of High School pits South Korea's high schoolers against each other in a martial art tournament, with the winners receiving the chance to have a wish granted. Entrants are allowed to use any style of martial arts they want, and some even tap into Chariok, borrowing powers from gods and supernatural beings to make themselves more powerful. The fights are gorgeous. Like Demon Slayer, the series finds a new way to make action visually striking. In God of High School, the story escalates and changes so quickly that much of the back half of the season feels underbaked, particularly the motivations of villain like Jegal Taek. Many new characters are introduced for 1 or 2 big fight scenes without much explanation as to why they are there. The only element of the seasons that feel appropriately paced is the reveal of the 3 main protagonists' supernatural powers. The main character Jin Mori only taps into his full potential in the season finale. Many things are left unexplained which are properly told in the webtoon. So the reason for putting this anime so high on this list is just because of beautiful and impactful fight scenes, and because it also has a tournament kind of plot which is similar to Baki. So if you are really interested in the story after watching the anime, then you can read the webtoon, which is much better and explains why things are happening the way they are. On the first number, the anime name is Kengan Ashura. Kengan Ashura is an original Netflix anime based off the manga of the same name by Yabako Sandrovich. Alongside Mob Psycho 2 and Vinland Saga, this was one of my favorite 2090s masterpiece. Kengan Ashura is the best martial art focused anime I have ever seen, along with Baki. The story is simple and interesting. Kengan Ashura provides an interesting tale of blood sports to fix business disputes among business tycoons. It's your usually high-stake fighting anime, but the animation is flawless and they do a decent job of fleshing out the characters. The pacing is on par with the story that is being told. We see a number of matches being fought and also a decent exposition of the plot, without it feeling being rushed. The names in the anime are intentionally ridiculous. You got Panasonic, Bandai, Nintendo and McDonald's out here hiring mercenaries, psycho killers and pro wrestlers to fight each other to the death to secure contracts and lucrative multi-billion yen deals in underground death matches. There's a lot to love about this anime. It's a shame that CGI drags it down for so many people, but at the end of the day, this is anime and good animation is important. So I don't blame those who are turned off by it. But Kengan Ashura is much like a ugly date. It may not be much to look at, but if you get to know it, you will probably love it. Give this anime a chance and see it for yourself. And yeah, that was for video guys. That was the video about top 10 animes which are very similar to Baki in plot and action. What are your thoughts about this list? Which is your favorite anime out of this top 10 list? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And if you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I post daily anime content about top 10 top 5 listings, anime reviews, recommendations, news, theories and all sorts of anime content on daily basis. So if you enjoyed, please subscribe, and that was it, and I will see you in the next one. Sayonara.